Around the world, sports and sporting activities are universally loved. Whether it's football, or as we say in the US, soccer, hockey, basketball, or tennis, sports are a part of many people's lives. And as a result, professional and amateur athletes and sporting organizations have the power and influence to bring about positive social and environmental change. And this point is evident with this week's podcast guest, Amy Munro, Head of Sustainability at the 11th Hour Racing Team. On our channel, we've always wanted to interview guests from around the world who are creating real change that has a positive impact on our environment. And that's exactly what Amy and the 11th Hour Racing Team are doing. The 11th Hour Racing Team say it best: from the oxygen we breathe, to the food we eat, to the stability of our climate, we only thrive when our ocean thrives. As the climate crisis intensifies, so does the human impact on our oceans. And that's why restoring our seas is an important undertaking as large as the ocean itself. In today's episode, I speak with Amy to understand the impacts human activity has had on the ocean and to learn what the 11th Hour Racing Team is looking to achieve. The topics range from life aboard the sailboat to how the boat is being used to help scientists with marine life research, biodiversity conservation, and ocean protection. This is our first time interviewing a sporting organization on our channel. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hey, Amy, thanks so much for joining me on the Sustainability Champions podcast. Great to have you on the show.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Awesome. I am too. And the way I like to start these conversations is really just learning a little bit more about the 11th Hour Racing Team from a high level. So I like to hear what I call the elevator pitch, just a 1 to 2 minute or 1 to 2 sentence description of what is the 11th Hour Racing Team.
Yeah, of course. So we are a high performance sailing team. And we are an American team based mostly in France, with a mission to race around the world. It's part of the ocean race. And we're currently just finished leg 1 from Alicante to Cabo Verde. And we're just getting the boat all repaired and ready for the next leg. And the exciting thing about being part of this team is that we have a core mission to embed sustainability in everything that we're doing. And use the great platform and opportunities involved with having a sporting platform to be able to not just raise awareness but showcase solutions and get stuck into some of the industries that we're working in.
Interesting. Okay, so there's a lot of different things to follow up on. First thing I'd like to ask is, you said that this is part of what's called was it the Great Ocean Race or just the Ocean Race?
The Ocean Race, yeah.
So what is the Ocean Race?
Yes, so the Ocean Race it's the toughest, longest sporting event in existence.
Really?
It's a round the world race.
Wow.
We compete in a 60-foot long boat with 5 sailors on board. It's pretty stripped back, no luxuries. The guys and girls on board are living in I guess you could say almost like a 20-foot container type environment. They take everything on board with them. So they've got a bunch of freeze dried. They're making, using energy from their solar and hydro generators. It's all pretty simple. They share 2 bunks, cook everything from a jet boil. And sort of sleep in shifts and sort of do 4 hours on, 4 hours off in some of the most sort of inhospitable seas and oceans that there are out there. So it's a great story of adventure.
It's incredible. And so they're doing all of this while racing other people doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. And so and is there a broader purpose to this race? You mentioned sustainability. Is that the purpose of this race, or is it something else?
Yeah, for sure. There's a strong theme within the Ocean Race of racing with purpose, and in particular this edition, there's a strong focus on ocean rights and bringing awareness and action to a declaration of ocean rights, recognizing the need for the ocean to have one voice and be recognized at a higher level.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for that. So as far as giving the ocean a voice and exploring all of the things that I suppose the ocean needs from conservation, restoration point of view, et cetera. What are some of the challenges that are currently facing the ocean that you're hoping to bring awareness to?
Yeah, I think well, there's a huge number of issues, and as sailors, we feel, especially the guys on the ocean race, they get what we kind of call the ocean view effect, and Charlie, our skipper, has spent a bit of time with astronaut Nicole Stott, where she describes the overview effect when you go into space and you kind of see the planet from afar, and you kind of get a real understanding of how of how precious it is and how we need to work as crew members, not just passengers. And I think that's something that's very, yeah, exactly. And I think that's something that's very true for the sailors as well, where they feel very connected, when they're on the ocean, and it's miles and miles of blue in every direction. You get a similar type of perspective. And also, when you're on these boats, you get a good idea for how little we actually need to live, and the effect of when we're back on land, the pressures of consumerist lifestyles, and actually how it's a sort of interesting lesson in circularity being on a boat like this for weeks and weeks at a time. So some of the key challenges that we're seeing and that we're trying to address is biodiversity, ocean acidification, plastic pollution, amongst many others, and also like equitable access to resources and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, these are really big topics that, you have specialists focusing on just each one of these, whether it's biodiversity or plastic. I mean, these are huge topics, and considering the size of the ocean, and especially in relation to land, it really is the biggest topic, I would imagine. But one thing you said is really interesting, which makes me think, in terms of the broader view, and how these sailors have to go into extreme inhospitable environments, putting themselves through a lot. I mean, sleeping for 4 hours and doing the shifts. I mean, that's intense, it's not easy. And that under those conditions, that's when they start to get this overview effect, I believe is what you called it. I wonder if there's a way, the question is, how can we have that same level of understanding and that same, I guess, feeling of oneness, and that we're not just passengers on aboard a ship, but we're actually crew members, and we have to work together, et cetera, when we are on land, living our daily lives and going through the random little dramas of the day, of the week, of the month, and we're presented with daily life and all of its challenges, ups and downs. How do we, we're living on a 60-foot boat in inhospitable waters is not a permanent state of being for most people. How can we take that and apply it to everyone else who is living, and kind of share those values with others? I don't know if you have an answer to that. That's just what I'm wondering, because it seems like that's kind of what we need.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's hard to care about or protect what we don't know, or love, what we protect what we love, and we love what we know. So I think the more that we can tell these stories as ocean users, or as people passionate about being on the water, the more we can sort of share what the ocean does for us, with everything from oxygen, the oxygen that we breathe, to regulating climate and weather, and all of the many things that many benefits that we see. So I think often it's about telling those stories for the sailors, but yeah, I guess remembering that we're part of that bigger picture too.
Yeah, I think it's a very valuable lesson, really, is just how we're one. Each one of us is just one piece of a much bigger picture and much bigger puzzle. So some of those things that you're raising awareness about, biodiversity, the plastic, the ocean acidification. I mean, as I said, these are huge topics. How is the 11th Hour Racing team either addressing them or bringing awareness to them?
Yeah, so I guess we want to be initially, credible in what we're doing. So I guess we sort of start by we kind of feel like there's a lot of awareness raising maybe, and actually we want to be much more focused on solutions, working from within, the marine industry, the sporting world, to create change there. So, and hopefully beyond. So I guess that where that starts for us. Yeah, although we know, all of these things end up with, impacts on the ocean, we want to bring it back to what our activities are, and kind of tried to lead by example there. So we did a big sort of period of, at the beginning of the campaign, consultation with all of our stakeholders, and really understand what the key issues were, what our big activities were, where our big impact hotspots were going to be. And then we're quite sort of driven by data. So we did a detailed analysis of the build of our boat, for example, huge challenges there. So as a result of that detailed life cycle assessment, we could then, pick out some of the key impact hotspots, work with the class who sets the rules around our type of boat, and help, embed rules changes to help bring us more in line with, 50% reductions by 2030 and net zero by 2050. Wow. So I was looking at that, so data informed decision making, trialing alternative materials and processes, working with a huge amount of our suppliers. So that was a really a big part of it, actually, a big realization as we were going through the process of gathering all this detailed data and information. We had, a lot of open doors to have those conversations around sustainability, and but where we then hit challenges was, a lot of the suppliers we're working with are small, medium size. And although they might have the passion and the intention, or the willingness, they might not have the time or the budget or the expertise in-house. So off the back of that, we created a project called the Toolbox, which is a set of resources, like a sort of 1 to 8 steps on how initially, our suppliers could go about putting in place a sustainability program. So we're kind of starting in that space, in trying to help our industry move forward with the intention that, the knock-on effects of that are reduced emissions, and therefore, less of an impact on our oceans.
And when you're talking about your suppliers, et cetera, this is regarding how you're actually building the boat.
Building the boat, how we're operating as a team. Yeah.
Oh, well, because, I mean, I imagine beyond the 5 sailors on the boat, there's others who are supporting, and you have to travel. You said, yes, the first leg was Alicante to Cabo Verde. Yeah. So you have to get from Alicante to Cabo Verde. The others on the team who are not the sailors have to travel as well, and so on and so forth. I'd like to talk about something else that I saw on your website, which really fascinates me, and that's your onboard science program. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit about what that is and what you're hoping to accomplish with it?
Yes. So this, for me, it's super exciting. So I had a background in oceanography, and so to be able to see the boats travel around the world with ocean science equipment on board is really exciting, especially because they go to some really remote spots. And so, what we're doing is we've got some instrumentation called the Ocean Pack on board the boat, which is constantly taking samples, tracking, carbon dioxide levels, temperature, salinity, and we can even take sort of samples for microplastics and things like that. So that live data is coming back off the boat. And then the Ocean Race are working with a number of organizations, including the National Oceanography Centre, and NOAA, amongst others, to process that data.
And so, sorry, what was the last part?
No, just that it's quite an exciting project.
I mean, it sounds incredible, and what an opportunity, because it's the boats are already there, and it's a race around the world. So you can, using the same equipment I mean, it's a race, right? So you're trying to do this as quickly as possible, which is amazing. You get to see practically in real time the same equipment taking samples almost at the same time period. I mean, obviously it's not exactly the same, but you get within a relatively close period of time to see how things move. And are the sailors expected to do anything with this equipment, or it just automatically tracks it on its own? Are they required while they're on board to be taking the samples and actually processing them or preparing them or something like that? Or is it just sort of much more passive than that?
It's mostly quite passive, actually, but we do have what we call science with sci-fi. So sci-fi is Simon Fisher, who's our navigator, and yeah, he does a lot of the management of because they draw, a certain amount of energy, and so making sure that we've got the right sort of energy in, energy out, that it's charged and all that kind of thing, and checking that it's functional and all that kind of thing. So yes, there's a little management, and the guys are really engaged in the data that comes off the boat as well, which is quite exciting. So we get to sail with another purpose, which is exciting.
Yeah, I mean, what seems like the sailing is the purpose is, ultimately to raise awareness and to understand what's actually going on. So it's so cool. Like you said, you get to participate in a race, which is amazing and fun and adrenaline and exhilarating in and of itself. And simultaneously, you're actually contributing to science and raising awareness. And yeah, it really is double. It's working double time. And
sure.
So recently, you published your 2021 sustainability report. Is the science or this onboard science program that we were just talking about, is that factored into your sustainability report, or are you looking more at what we were just talking about before that in terms of your suppliers, carbon emissions, how you're actually, or is it both?
Yeah, it's a little of both. It's our report, annual reports are mostly operational reports, but it includes a lot of the innovation and science and outreach and things as well. We're moving, it won't, so our sort of 21 and 22 reports will be mostly focused on, boat build impacts and operational impacts. But as we move now into the phase of taking part in the ocean race, we move more into looking at, and reporting on the ocean science projects, as well as our grantee projects as we move around from location to location as well.
And who are the grantees?
So this has been a really exciting process to bring on board our grantees. So at each stopover, at each leg of the race, so we start in Alicante in Spain, and then we're now here in Cabo Verde. We go next to Cape Town.
With a beautiful view.
With a beautiful view, yeah. We go next to Cape Town, which will be a couple of weeks sailing, and then Brazil, Itajaí in Brazil, up to Newport, Rhode Island, and then back across the Atlantic to Aarhus, The Hague, and then finish in Genoa. So at each of those locations, we're quite. It's quite important to us that we're not just sort of turning up and having an impact, having emissions impacts in the locations that we are visiting. That actually we have a chance to sort of uplift and highlight some of the great work of local NGOs in those locations as well, especially as it relates to ocean health and equitable access to the ocean and to natural resources. So in Cabo Verde here, we've just been working with a fantastic local NGO called Biosfera, who have been working on a marine pollution action plan for the island, as well as a number of things that the number of projects they're working on, including shark and ray protection, and as well sort of recycling programs for the island that are all sort of interlinked. All topics are interlinked. So it's been really exciting. We did an aquatic cleanup with them yesterday. And then when we get to Cape Town, it's more of a focus on freshwater, access to freshwater. So yeah, excited to get there and see the projects that they're working on and help sort of use our platform to showcase their solutions.
And so the grantees are the grantees these NGOs, or grantees are sponsoring the work that the NGOs are doing? Or
the grantees are the NGOs themselves, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. And then if we talk about the sponsor, because you're the 11th hour racing team, and before the call you mentioned that, or before the recording you mentioned that 11th hour racing is your sponsor. Is that correct? Yeah. So who is, or what is 11th hour racing?
Yeah. So unlike what I feel is a normal sponsorship where you're, as a sports team, you're selling on behalf of the sponsor. It's a different setup with ours. 11th Hour Racing is an organization based in Newport, Rhode Island, and their remit is solely to raise awareness of ocean health issues, but also inspire action on innovative solutions. So they do that in 3 different ways. The first is through sponsorships like ours. They have a real, understanding or passion, that belief that sports teams have this great, I think it's, a small amount of people follow science, but a huge amount of people follow sports. So actually, if you can get the solutions out through the megaphone of sports, then we're in a great position. So, so that's the sort of the mission behind why they do sports sponsorships. And they also have a ambassador program. So in a similar way, using fantastic athletes around the world to speak to those issues. And then they have the grantees. So that is, giving grants to the incredible organizations on the ground doing the work.
So a big part of your job as the 11th Hour Racing team is to interact with and actually work with these local NGOs. That's actually a crucial component of at least in this specific case, the ocean race, is going to your new location where you stop and fix the boat, do whatever you need to do, while simultaneously working with the local NGO that promotes and encourages the values that are important to you. Like you were saying, doing the cleanup yesterday.
Exactly. I guess as a team, we're a bit of a vehicle for our sponsors. Mission around supporting those NGOs as well. So,
and is there, how do you actively communicate this? I mean, is it through social media, or is it because people are genuinely, I know practically nothing about sailing, so that's why I'm asking. Is it because there are a lot of sailing enthusiasts who are watching this and they understand, because it's constantly being talked about, the ocean race, meaning ocean health and ocean awareness? Is that, I guess I'm just looking to understand how people end up finding out about this important message that you're working so hard to promote.
Yeah, I think also definitely in the sailing world, the ocean race is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, racing event in our community. So that way for sure. But then also when we're at each stopover location, there's big ocean race villages, ocean life parks, lots of exhibitions and stands talking about all the different projects that the ocean race are working on and that local NGOs are working on. So there's a huge amount of footfall through those race villages at each stopover as well.
Got it. And okay, that makes a lot of sense. And then is the ocean race an annual thing?
It's not annual. It's about every three or 4 years.
That makes sense. Yeah, considering the amount of work that goes into actually organizing this. But and does that mean that is the ocean race, the locations of each stopover, every race, are they different each race?
Yeah, they can be. Some have been pretty consistent, but this is the first time that we're in Cabo Verde, which is cool. But yes, they can change. We've got slightly fewer stopovers this campaign, which was due in part to the ocean race wanting to reduce the footprint of the race itself by 80%, which was pretty ambitious, but they've achieved. So so there's fewer stops means longer legs. So one of the really cool pieces to watch is going to be from Cape Town to Itajaí in Brazil, which is going to be 30 to 40 days through the Southern Ocean in sort of 40-foot waves and storms and temperatures and all sorts of things, all sorts of challenges. So,
and you're not one of the sailors, correct?
No.
So what do you do? I mean, how do you watch them, or are they just sending reports? Is there some sort of satellite imagery? I mean, how do you know what's actually going on?
Yeah, so we as part of the shore support team, I'm basically glued to a tracker which updates every couple of hours. So or this leg actually was every hour. So yeah, you're just sort of waiting for the hour to tick over so you can see how the team are doing, and waiting for we also have, there's a lot of media and comms that comes off the boat. So we have an onboard reporter, Amy Ross, who sends off fantastic blogs and imagery and video content, so you can see what life is really like on board as well.
And this comms person, what is it, a he? I didn't catch the name.
Amy is a he, yeah.
Okay. And so is he a sailor, or he's just sitting there documenting?
So he is he is a fantastic sailor, but he in this within the rules of this race, he can't actually sail the boat. So there are some restrictions around that. He can do things like, he can do anything except sort of help with the actual sailing of the boat. So you have two on and two off at any one time, and then Amory kind of floats in between, and he'll help with making sure everyone's fed and looked after and things like that. But quite a tough position for him to be in, because I'm sure he'd love to just get on the handles and help out. Yeah.
And I can see that, especially if is a good sailor and he really knows what's going on. He just sort of has to sit back and just watch. And if they're struggling, it's sorry.
But in the meantime, he's taking some very beautiful content, and
I'm sure
you should really check out this amazing some drone footage he got in the last campaign of whales feeding, which was just awesome.
I normally save this question to the end, but where can people see those photos if they want to take a look?
Yes, so our website is 11thhourracingteam.org, and then on social media we're 11th Hour Team, which is where you can find us. And then also, if you're interested in the toolbox, the resources behind the toolbox, if you're a SME or if you're just interested in putting together a sustainability program for your project, then it's sustainabilitytoolbox.com.
Amazing. Well, actually, I think this is a really perfect place to end. And I mean, it sounds like the work that you're doing and the intense like racing situation that these sailors are going through is unbelievable. And it's all for, of course, for the fun of sailing and for the fun of the race. But really the bigger picture here is to bring awareness to how important our oceans are for all life, really. I mean, the Earth is what, 70% ocean? So, it's very, very important that we understand what the challenges are that we're facing and what can be done today, right now, with the tools and resources that we have currently available to us to actually mitigate and hopefully solve and turn around some of these challenges. So, well, best of luck, Amy, to you and the team, and enjoy beautiful Cabo Verde. The view you showed me earlier looks stunning, and the flat you're in right now looks like a lot of fun. I hope you sit in that swinging chair right behind you all the time. That's where I'd be all the time. But yeah, best of luck to the team. I hope coming in second at Cabo Verde on this first leg is a good omen for the rest of the race. And and I hope as well, in addition to a successful race, I hope that you're able to raise the awareness and really demonstrate to people in all of the locations you're going to and around the world about what can be done to protect our oceans.
Thank you so much, Daniel.